So yeah, this weekend was the second alpha test for Saga of Lucimia, and obviously nothing's changed in terms of the graphics side because they're not spending time optimizing that. They're working on bugs and adding features.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and for those who don't know, um, that's something that always comes last. Like it literally is like the last thing you even do in MMO design is optimization. Um, so that's why a lot of that is going to be the way it is. It's still identical because that stuff does not happen till near the very end game. But I know they added combat testing this alpha test, correct?
they did indeed. You can actually see one difference between this one and the last test is that I do have a bar at the bottom of my screen,
Oh, so
which
exciting!
is a bunch of skills. And if I press R to unsheath my weapon, so you have to unsheath before you can actually start combat, it all lights up. Slight glitch that's occurred on this version of the server is for some reason, obviously, if you remember last time, I talked about how amazed I was at the performance that I could turn around so easily and see everything without issues.
Mm-hmm.
This time, for some reason, with the mouse look, if you start spinning around, you kind of get a rubber banding and suddenly spin around. And they think they know what the issue is there, so it's not a big deal. But as a result, I tend to turn more slowly using the turn keys rather than the mouse, which, as you can see, actually turns perfectly well. So something else, and the never ending.
Yeah, definitely never ending. It's always just one thing after another. Um,
I
there were
mean,
what was it? I
they
was
think
going to
it's
ask about
they,
now.
they actually think it's due to the rocks. Funny enough, they think they've probably got too many in there because they haven't optimized anything. They think the rocks are just starting to clog down your graphics card is working far too hard, as it were. So again, if they'd optimized and stuff, it wouldn't be so big a deal. But I think they're going to try and take away some of the rocks to ease it rather than optimize because, as you say, that's a low priority because they need to get all the features and added and things first. So just decrease or remove the issue for now rather than worry about optimizing things.
I know there was one other bug this weekend that was not intended at all because Saga is a solely PVE game, but people were able to attack each other.
Yes, there was a little video of everyone being murdered by each other. That was quite funny. Someone found it out by jumping and attacking. They suddenly hit a player, and from there, all hell broke loose, and we decided to kill everyone in the devs, and it was a lot of fun. So if you like PvP, well, you should have bought the game, got early access, because that would have been your one and only chance in Saga to kill other players. So
Right,
you've missed it now.
it's all gone. I do love that was there because now how was the turning? I was unfortunately not able to even attend this one just due to some real life concerns, which really sucked. But how was the? I know we had issues last time with being able to see individual players. Um, how
Yeah.
was it that time?
Yeah, last time we had a few issues. Sometimes people logged in and they couldn't see anyone because they'd actually been disconnected without being told, and yet they could still run around the world, but they weren't part of the world. There's also a problem there. It counted everyone as being part of a group when they entered the world, so you couldn't actually create groups last time.
Yeah, yeah.
So this time, oh, there was also a cap. For some reason, we couldn't get more than 25 people in at one time, so we had a lot of people stuck on a load screen. So that's gone now. So we had everyone log in one at a time. We had everyone log out, and then everyone log in at the same time. Um, and there seemed to be no issues there. Everyone got in, everyone could see each other. There were no disconnects at all. So the issues that plagued the first test seem to have been all resolved, which is always a good thing. You can create groups, which is also good. We had a group of 8 set up and another group being created. There was a slight bug where if everyone disbands from your group and you're the only one left, you still have to disband because it counts you as being in a group. So until you've clicked that disband button, you can't get invited to another group. So that's a minor thing that is there. So it still counts you as part of a group, even if it's just group with yourself, which is odd. But yeah, so that was. So the grouping side seems to be working well. The chat let you do slash groups. I think at the moment it still sends to everyone, but it had the function of doing it a slash group mode, as it were. So yeah, the chat's got enhanced with that, so you can do tells and group talk. So that's been added the feature. And as I say, combat was added here, and you can see I'll hit this dummy with a nice interesting little sword swing. So it's got the Elder Scrolls kind of. You'll see a sword go out. Obviously, at the moment, the animation is simply that. Regardless of what skill I use, if I use a kick, it's the sword that swings.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's just beat it down, then it dies. Obviously, good old-fashioned death, and it'll respawn. But yeah, so that seemed to work, and also when people watched you do it, it seemed that your strikes were. Oh, I've lost the. Oh, it's because it's still dead. Let's try that again. Oh, it's still dead. It's respawned dead. I'll go beat up the other one. Ignore the chest there. It's not really a chest. It's a chest that's a person. So that was another strange, a rogue bug. A female with rather large boobs called Chest. Unintentional entirely. It is in fact supposed to be an actual chest, but for some reason the place was something weird.
Somebody was. I almost feel like that was something people were just like, ha
Yeah.
ha.
So,
You guys think you're gonna be funny? We're gonna put this in here.
yeah. So
All the guys ran up to him and went, I'm immediately gonna loot that.
loot
I
the
would.
chest.
Oh my,
Yes,
that's actually remarkably funny.
we did find that quite amusing. Yeah. So when I swing the sword on this, other players do see it in time. I think it sometimes started to disconnect as time went on, but initially it was working. So when they did an alpha test themselves internally, they showed a brief
Mhm.
video of Comet being added, and what you were doing was very delayed compared to what someone saw. So they fixed that to an extent. Obviously, more work to be done, but people see you attacking now, which is obviously an improvement.
Excellent.
You'll notice the bar is only 10 skills. They haven't decided how many skills there's going to be in the game yet. They are thinking between 10 and 12. My personal feelings, obviously WoW and Final Fantasy are very popular games, and they use you have all your skills and can enjoy them all. So it's very popular. I do prefer having a limited hotbar. I think it helps let you create a more unique character for yourself, rather than in other games like Final Fantasy 14. If you're a paladin, so is everyone else, and your skills are exactly the same. There's no difference between the characters. Whereas when you're picking your skills, there's room to change. That said, I personally feel 10 is too small. I would definitely say 12 would be the bare minimum based on my experience from Elder Scrolls Online, and you can obviously support that given you play that. I'm sure you feel that if you'd lost a skill in each spire on Elder Scrolls Online, it would be a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah. See, I'm in favor of, to an extent, I'll give this opinion here about the skills. Um, it focuses less on, I guess I want to put it this way, it focuses less on the type of rotation. Like, because when you have everything available to you, there's a certain rotation you have, and that's what everyone's supposed to have. However, when you have a limited hotbar, yes, there's still a rotation to speak of, but there's certain fights that are situational, so people need to have situational bars available to do things with. And that, I feel like, just provides a little bit more to the game, because in WoW and Final Fantasy, everyone has every skill in their bar all the time. So those situational fights, you just hit the skill when you need it. Whereas in games with limited hotbars, while there may be a meta rotation that is quote unquote best, there's still a certain situations where you're like, okay, we need you to switch off of the meta approved, if you will, build and run this more support build or this CC build or whatever the case may be, because this boss or this dungeon has these events and we need someone to be able to counter them, because if no one does and everyone just runs a full, optimized spec, then we're not going to be able to get it done.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely all for limited bars. But as I say, I think there is, to the other end of the problem, you can actually cause the same issue. If you have all your hotbars available and you have all the skills, as I say, everyone's the same, everyone's got the same rotation, and everyone does the same thing. If you go with limited bars, yes, you can sort of create that uniqueness, but at the same time, if your bar is too limited, like for instance here it's 10 skills, you kind of get the same problem occurring, just with less skills available to you. In that if you're playing a DPS role or a tank role, your priority is obviously that role, and you're going to put the skills that are most general purpose, most commonly going to be used, the skills that are going to get you through pretty much the majority of combats. And so what happens is if you've got two builds using the same kind of stats, a sword wielding, strength, dex, con, tank,
Yeah.
another one with the same stats is probably going to end up with pretty much the exact same 10 skill hotbar on there, because you're just not going to have, you don't have enough range to start playing around with all the fun skills. The reality is if you've got a skill which could save a fight, but it's on a 10-minute cooldown, for example, well, do I really have room for that on a 10 button bar? If I had another skill on there, is it likely that I'd probably avoid the situation where I'd need the 10-minute cooldown button? So it's one of those things that if you make it too small, you've caused the same problem where everyone has people start having the same bars, because you just can't afford the more utility, more fun skills. You have to stick with just what your role is, and you just don't have room. And you see it in Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, you do.
You've got your 12 buttons, and even that's 2 more buttons than this one currently has. And even then, builds, you'll always have meta builds, of course you will, but because of how limited the bars is, you don't have room to add your own flavor to that meta build. There's just not enough space on there. Whereas if you had a few more skills beyond that, you could then sort of say, right, well, here's my build for doing the max DPS, and now I've actually got this heal here, or this buff there, or whatever else I want to put on to make it more me. You don't get that with a real tight build, a tight sort of selection like one hotbar. So I would either be looking at a minimum of 12 skills plus even sort of 3 side skills, which you can only have, they're for 5-minute cooldowns or more sort of skills. So very situational ones, select which ones you want, put them in there.
Like clickies, like ones that, like you said, have a minimum, like you can put your oh crap bars up.
Yeah.
If you think about it like that, like, okay, these 3 slots over here aren't assigned a key or anything of that nature. They're literally clickies or whatever you want to say. But in order to hit these, the only thing that can go in there is if they have a cooldown of greater than X seconds.
Exactly. You don't have room to have it on your main bar. It just doesn't work because you've only got 10 skills or 12 skills. You've already maxed out. I've got my 3 attack buttons or whatever, and you've got your other skill, your mitigation ones. And so it's nice to have. And then if you've got 3, there's probably going to be quite a few in the game. So different people might have a different selection that they choose as their utility skills. One might be, Bard might have an AoE mez, so just crowd controls everything, and that might be on a 10-minute cooldown. Well, you're not going to have that on your 12 slot bar, but if you've got a sort of part designated to it, then you'd be more willing to put that on there, or you might want something else there, a root, snare, or whatever it's going to be.
Right.
And so that helps add some flexibility to it. But even then, I'm thinking the game's probably going to have, if you've got 3 skills of high stats, there's probably going to be about 60 odd skills to choose from, I would imagine, at least, as an absolute minimum. And I'm thinking, well, frankly, would 2 bars really be too much for that? 2 sets of 10, that's 20 skills. That gives you room for, that's still going to leave about 40 skills left unused, at least, that you could pick from. And, I just think of Elder Scrolls Online again. I think I've got 5 skills on the one hand and shield bar, and there's 2 that I will never even touch. I've got a charge, but you use that once in a combat, most likely, maybe twice. I can't have that on a bar when I've only got a few skills to choose from. And so it's this sort of flavoursome, stylish skills that are nice to have, fun to have, but you just can't afford to have on too limited a hotbar. Whereas if you've got that second bar for it, it's sort of you have room to add those extra little fun things on there. The weird debuff, which is nice but not game changing enough to justify being on your bar compared to a skill that does more damage or mitigates more damage for you. So I think they've got to be very careful and think carefully how they want their skills. I wouldn't just make an arbitrary number saying I would do 10 or 12 or whatever. I'd think, how many skills does a player have available to them? What's a reasonable amount? What gives them a decent portion to take of those skills while still having to really make a choice between all those skills? Because as I say, if you've got 60 plus skills, being able to pick only 20 of them, I wouldn't say that's an excessive number of skills to have.
No.
Especially if you consider, what about people who've got like tracking? Who's going to have that on their 10 to 10 bar hotbar? You have to put it on and off all the time based on just when you suddenly need it, and then take it off again. Those sort of skills which make the flavor of the character, you just don't have time for that flavor if you've got 1 bar to play with.
I almost feel like what games like this really need to do is change how skills like track almost make it like if you have it, it's a passive that you can activate through a hotkey, or like how Elder Scrolls has that circular menu for consumables. They should add something like that to other games for those utility skills. Like you said, it's almost like, why have a skill anymore that's an active skill you have to use when it's something so niche like that? It almost feels like it should just be a passive when you learn it, and
Yeah.
then be able to use it once every so many minutes,
I
or
mean,
whatever the case, through a menu.
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I've no idea. They may have even thought of that. You know, I'm making the assumption it's on a bar. You know, and it might not be.
Yeah.
It might be something else. But
Oh no,
regardless,
that's
there will be those sort of utility kind of spells. It's like, well, what are you going to do with them? Are they going to have a separate bar that you can use for? Because you really don't want to be clogging up your minimal use bar already with skills like that. You know, flavor some stuff that you just can't afford to have. So if you've got a separate skill set for that, that's handy. You know, maybe even a separate bar for all those kind of things. Then maybe a 12 slot bar might not be so bad. But again, it depends how many skills they got. I just hope they look at it and think seriously about, well, how many skills could you potentially have on your combat bars and what works. Because I mean, the best example I can think of is in Magic the Gathering. When I play tournaments, or used to play tournaments, you tend to play with a deck of about 40 cards, and that was based on the idea of you want to get your kill cards out, your win condition cards as soon as possible, so you have the smallest deck you can to be able to do that. The problem is you give up a lot of utility and sort of reactionary, and a lot of personality of the build goes, because you've designed it to, this is what it does, this is how I kill the other player. And so regardless of who you play, the build plays the same each time. So it's the same play build, and so it can get a bit tiring. Whereas when you do casual play, you usually play with about 60 cards, because then you've got your own win conditions, and then you've got a load of cards to react to what the opponents are going to do to you. And I think that's what's important to think about when they decide how many skills they're going to let you have. Too few.
right.
The first thing you sacrifice is always going to be the utility and flavor when you minimize a bar. So it's just making sure you find that balance between, yes, have a limit, make people choose, but make them have enough choice to be able to make a fun and interesting character, rather than I'm DPS, therefore I need these 4 skills for my weapons bar, and I need these 3, and I need these 2, and oh, I've got no more space for anything else. It's really important that they get that balance right. So I hope they manage, because that's the only thing. Not concerned, because I say I enjoy Elder Scrolls Online with its 12 skills. It works, but I think even Elder Scrolls Online with a few more skills, I could have a lot more fun and play around with a lot more crazy sort of ideas. And
There's a lot of builds that I'm even looking at that it's just like, if I just had one more, I would be
yeah,
able to make a very well-rounded character.
yeah, and it's
But
rarely one more skill to max your DPS or something. As you say, it's to well round out your character nicely.
yeah, it's one of those things where, like, oh, I'm running this bar right here, but if I had one more, I'd be able to throw on that utility skill, which would provide more for my group. But I can't, because if I put that utility skill on, it nerfs my DPS so low that it's like, I might as well not even play with the group, because I'm actually hurting the group more than I'm helping by playing this way.
Yeah, exactly. So as I say, if you have when you have unlimited bars, you become all the same character. If you have too small a bar, I think the same thing kind of happens, and
Yeah.
you lose a lot of freedom at the same time. So just I hope the devs, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll consider it all and look, but I know initially they're looking at 10 or 12 skills, and I think it'll be, I'd say 12 at the bare minimum. I'd like to see more, as I say, either a second hotbar or a special hotbar to put some special sort of skills in there for playing around with. I think that would be quite important to me, to give me the freedom, because I love making builds and playing around with stuff. And I'm very restricted if my bar's only 10 slots or whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah. Definitely. All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to cover for this before we
No,
sign off for this? I guess the second alpha test.
yeah, no, it's just a brief update to let everyone know. Yeah, some features like the combat's back in, as I say. So it's a start. There'll probably be a load more features for the next one in November. Um, as I say,
It's
it's looking
exciting
good.
to see how far they've come in so short. I mean, I know some people are looking at it, and I know with graphics, and that's the first thing people see, but they're like, you gotta I always gotta tell people with graphics that always comes later. Some people ignore graphics completely because even developers are like look at, well, quote unquote, the most popular MMO out there to date, actually doesn't do graphics at all, which would be why am I drawing a blank here?
Wow.
Um, wow, yeah, like they literally go, we don't end for the high end graphics because we want our game to be accessible. They value gameplay over pretty. Like, and I've seen quite a few very pretty MMOs that were very shallow once you got by all the flashiness. And that still may come as they do passes, but now we're looking at alpha. This is a true alpha. They're looking at things like we did before, making sure people could actually even log in, introducing combat, which, for an MMO is a very important part. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what it is that they add next into the world.
Yeah, it's important to know that this early access isn't about selling the game because it looks sexy or anything. This is nuts and bolts going through the dirty stuff that most people don't see when people create a game, and a lot of people don't want to see. There are a few of us who enjoy this sort of thing, hence why we've paid to support and gone in here.
Mhm.
Hell, a couple more sessions on these test servers, and I'll have got my money's worth 2 years before the game's even come out because I've just enjoyed myself. I've had 2 sessions for about 3 hours each time. The banter on the team speak's been great with all the guys. The community's really building up and just chatting away and having a laugh while testing, even with the devs
Yeah.
in there as well. A lot of joking around, so that's fun. So 2 more weekends, I'll probably have about 12 hours worth of game time. Not gameplay as such, but game time where I've enjoyed socializing, which is part of an MMO experience to me, and moving
Yep.
around and helping build. And it's been fun stuff for me. So for me, I'll get my money's worth well before this game comes out. So
I've
it's a
spent far
no-brainer.
more far more money and played far less. Looking at you, Landmark.
Yeah, yeah,
I think I
exactly.
spent for the $100 charge at one point, and I think I logged in a total of maybe 5 hours total, and then realized, wow, I cannot stand this.
And another thing worth
So,
noting actually is probably I remember on one of the sites after they saw the video, they said the graphics were crappy and they weren't going to get much better. Um, well, I think that's pretty disingenuous. I think the graphics are pretty good for an alpha, and if you don't believe they'll be able to get much better, I suggest you try and find some early alpha footage of Pantheon, because compare that to what they've got on their live site now, and that shows you what you can do with graphics in Unity from an early alpha compared to optimized, because they look beautiful. And it did not look that pretty on the alpha when they did their Kickstarter back in the day, I can tell you. If it had,
no.
they'd have got their target goal. So
Uh,
don't be too judgmental on the graphics. I think personally they're pretty good for this stage, but to each their own.
right. No, I agree with you completely. I do agree they're good for what they are. I mean, even if you look back at pretty much any game in alpha and look at their level, you can see that the graphics are obviously the last thing you touch, because I've seen some really ugly looking games, especially very early on. Even if you looked at games like, I'm trying to think of one, before they do all the passes. Well, Elder Scrolls Online's a good example. Their graphics in early alpha were not that good either. Like, if you remember looking at the graphics from what was it, from when they first announced it in like the game mag or whatever it was, like how bad it looked.
Yeah.
It did not look good at all. Especially coming off of Skyrim at that point, people coming off Skyrim and looking at it and going, "Wow, this is just garbage." But in reality, it's gotten immensely better.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the graphics are what they are. I'm quite impressed with them myself. I think this is very playable graphics to me. Yeah, not the best thing in the world, but I'd take it. Um, So I definitely, as I say, I'm looking forward to seeing what the next builds are like, and I'm certainly looking forward to the game. It's going to be very group oriented, well, entirely group oriented. It's going to be hard. It's going to be mean. A lot of people might not like that, but if it does intrigue them, and obviously what you've seen so far isn't enough to put money down, then so be it. But at least go to the forum, sign up, get involved with the community. We're all having a laugh. Hell, we've all just started up characters on the P99 EverQuest 1 server, and we're getting a guild together there. We've got a guild together there, and we're we're having a laugh. Even before this game's out, we're just getting ourselves back to the old school mindset there in preparation. So yeah, even if you're not putting money down, come join the community. See what we got.
Yeah, definitely. Devs are always out there chatting with everyone. Like, I know I was watching one of the videos since I missed the test, and it was very heartening to see. I think it was Renfil opened up the TeamSpeak channel and looked at all the community in there. I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah.
there were quite a few people hopping in there. It was exciting to see. So definitely check it out. Sagaoflucemia.com. Check out their YouTube page. One of the things I really enjoy that they're doing, if you really like getting in at this early stage and seeing how the game develops, what do? Like tours of the studio. They do like the building of series. They have a whole bunch of series that literally just sit down with one of the developers while they're working.
Yeah, music
And
series.
oh, it's fantastic. If you really get into that kind of thing, which I know it's kind of a niche thing, you have to kind of be interested in game development from the beginning. Or if it's a hobby of yours, like if you're really into gaming as a hobby and wanting to know everything about it, is very fascinating to see what these guys are doing. So definitely check that out on their YouTube page.
Yeah, they're all about keeping everything open. Everything they're doing is all open to. They want to build with the community. They want to literally show all the ugly side of building a game. So they've got plenty of blogs, plenty of updates. They're pretty open, and probably more open than any other dev team you'd expect. So yeah, they're new, so they're going along for the right. So they've got no previous experience, but that can work in their favor as well. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things to overcome, but the game they're making is going to be something they're maybe so passionate about, because this is more about the game than the business side at the end of the day. So obviously they want it to succeed and make money, but they're not going to compromise what they visioned as a game, because they just want it to be a great game, even if it ends up being mediocre in success in terms of the money they make. If they've got a game that they just, years to come, look at Brad. People always think Brad McQuaid, they always remember EverQuest. It's because when he made that was his first MMO, and it was a big passion. It's the same sort of thing here. The game is being made with real passion, and that in itself is going to be
They're
a big deal.
developing it as a game that they want to play, which is something that a lot of people don't do in this industry anymore. They make it for the money.
Well,
This
yeah.
is not MMO industries. This is gaming industries. These guys aren't looking at it as going, I want this to be the next Warcraft that I can walk around in my yacht and things like that. No, they're like, I'm making a game that I would actually want to play. I don't want to be inundated with being, I don't know, hit with like a cash shop every 5 seconds. I don't want, people to nerf my gameplay just so we can bring in a bigger crowd. I want a game that I'd want to play. And going in with that vision is what I very much admire about them, because they are uncompromising. They don't necessarily go with what is the current market trend, which is one of the things I hear so much in the MMO community today of, why aren't you buy to play or free to play? That's the market trend. Well, because they realize that's not the kind of game they want to play. They don't want to spend their time developing, cosmetics when they would rather develop something that they want to play.
Yeah, and also and it's a benefit of a lot of indie games, of course, is the fact that the development team is the business as well. So it's combined. Whereas obviously most AAA games, you've got the development team and the business. They're two separate things, and so the business wants more money. They tell the dev teams to change their plans to make sure that happens. When the dev team is the business, every decision made, both if money-wise, will still think, how's that going to affect the game we've made? And that's the benefit of most indie games, and that's the extra benefit of, as I say, people's first game, because it really is their baby, it's their pride and joy. If you've done a load of other games, maybe you will compromise a bit more, but when it's your first, you want it to be perfect for you. You want to be proud of it. So, yes, sure, they're inexperienced in making games, and that's going to make it a real hard slog, but at the end of it, they're going to make a game that's not being compromised in their vision of what they wanted. And if you like that vision, their vision, you want it, you can be confident that you're going to get what they've said they're going to make.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm really excited about. I'm tired of the current genre, and I know we all are, with the money grub and all of that. And and at the cost of the gameplay. It's the mentality is we're not making this game to play for years. We're making it to get as much money as we can in the 3 months it's going to be popular.
Yeah.
And that's not the type of MMO I want to play. And Asteldian, I know you're the same way. It's not the type of MMO you want to play.
Absolutely not.
So, all right.
But I think that ties it up.
Yep. Excellent. Well, then we will definitely see everyone again from the Saga of Lucimia team, the community, and you guys for the next alpha test. Do we know when that's going to be? I can't remember if they mentioned it.
Not announced yet. It'll either be 4 to 6 weeks from now, so either end of November or early December, I'd imagine.
Excellent. Well, then we'll definitely be there for that. So expect more from us and more from the Saga of Lucimia team. So see you next time, everybody.
Goodbye, all.